I love it. Thank you.
Awesome.
So just for the people who, by the way, are logged in, in the past, not that any other students would do that, but if somebody logged on just for a minute to show it as extra credit, we actually show the number of minutes you're on the Zoom call. Zoom tracks that. So if the professors are giving you extra credit, you logged in for 30 seconds and said, hasta la vista, well, you probably won't get extra credit. Anyhow, just FYI.
Good point, Ken.
Yep.
Okay. So I have 2 full screens of faces, and that is a 4x4, so that's 16. I have 32 out of 64 faces showing. I need 64 faces showing. So please, the rest of you, log on and have your microphones ready to share. All right. I would like to welcome all of you to our Spring 2023 Virtual Operations and Supply Chain Management Student Night. Tonight, we are welcoming somewhere between 170 to 200 of you, and I hope that they all file into church very shortly, because we're only about 64 strong as of right now. But this is the largest group that we've ever had, and we're very excited to have you here with us tonight. I'm your moderator. My name is Karen Vizda, and I'm here to tell you that supply chain absolutely touches every one of you throughout your lives, in your careers, but as well as in your daily lives. We've learned that through our COVID issues in these past couple of years. Supply chain is critical, and you have the opportunity to affect that in your future careers. I worked at UMass Lowell in the Manning School of Business as a senior adjunct faculty member for 15 years as the one of the many professional communications faculty members. And I'm currently the ASCM, Massachusetts Minuteman Board of Directors, Academic Liaison and Activities Director. How's that for a title, huh? You too could join our organization and get yourself a real hefty title. And it's free for students to join, and a wonderful feather in your cap. We're always looking to help students grow in meeting management. So we'd love to have you join us at any time. Now let's see, I have some slides I want to share with you. Get those going. And I need to share a screen.
Wait a minute. Go. There you go.
Can I share screen?
Yeah, you can now.
Awesome, thank you. All right. So again, welcome, everyone. This is a joint meeting between the ASCM, Massachusetts Minuteman, Northern New England and New Haven chapters, as well as the American Society for the Quality. It's a part of the New Haven chapter of ASQ. The companies that we represent this evening via our speakers are Excelis Technologies, Dell Technologies, Discerna Pharmaceuticals, Michael Page International, Pfizer Incorporated, Lockheed Sikorsky, and the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And of course, our members this evening provide us with a lot more companies than that. There is nothing better than your opportunity to be networking with people that are part of your future career. The schools, sorry about that, way to go. Am I still sharing my slides?
Not yet. Looks like it dropped off. It hasn't come back up.
It dropped off. Okay. From my current slide, can you see it?
Not yet. You gotta share again.
Yep. Hang on. Share. We have
I'm
gone
still,
from,
Yep.
even
Here's
just
one.
last year, we have gone from 6 schools to 10 schools. And they are all listed here. I hope that every one of your schools is represented in this list. And if it is not, I apologize. I was going through the registration list, and these are all the schools that I counted. So we're thrilled to have you with us this evening. I hope you are as proud of your schools as we are to have you join us. So I want to thank all of you in advance for attending our semi-annual student.
who, Karen, go ahead, unmute again. Somebody is doing some
Funky
movement
stuff
on their
to us.
desk.
Ken,
Yeah, somebody,
Ken,
I don't know.
grant me host access as well, because I'm catching them and I can mute it.
Yeah, I'm looking too to see who it is.
Well,
and
no,
I-
they were on my screen. I could easily do it.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. I wish I did. I don't know how to do
We'll
host
teach you
access.
during the next meeting.
Okay, I appreciate it. But usually the microphone will light up and show me on the screen with the
I did
participants.
unmute myself. I believe you can hear me now.
Yep, you're perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
perfect.
And whoever was making all that noise, they stopped, so that's good.
Right. So as I've mentioned already, we are looking to connect with all of the students face to face this evening. To get credit for attending our networking meeting, you must have your screen turned on and participate. And Zoom tracks that for us. And your faculty member will get a report so that you get credit for spending 2 hours of your time with us this evening. And we hope that we will be making this more than worthwhile for you. There will be 2 $25 Amazon gift cards raffled off at the end for those of you who both stay for the entire session, as well as participate. Have your screens on and participate. So, with no further ado, it is now my pleasure to introduce all our speakers and welcome you to our meeting this evening as well. We'll start with our ASCM Massachusetts Minuteman Chapter President, Ken Glasser, who is Global Contracts Manager at Excelis Technologies. He is going to welcome you. He is going to address all of the participants and professors. And as the Director of Programs for our chapter as well, Ken will also share regarding upcoming programs in collaboration with our fellow participating chapters this evening, which would be New Haven, Northern New England, and ASQ New Haven.
Thank you, Karen. Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you all. I will share screen with you and quickly show you. So these are the upcoming joint meetings. Hang on one sec, with our fellow chapters. Does it show us the calendar?
Yep.
It does? Okay, good. So we work in collaboration with ASCM Massachusetts Minuteman, us, New Haven, and I will introduce the presidents from each of these in one second. Northern New England and Western Mass and ASQ New Haven. And we have this, obviously, the student night tonight. On March 8th, we have one S&OP secrets that only NASA can teach you, and it is the past chairman of Apex International. So if we're lucky to get him, that's going to be a fun, amazing presentation. And then there's a lunch and learn coming up on March 15, when supply chain goes off the tracks. April 19, documenting process in a manner that makes sense, which is good to have. You guys probably all document your processes at school, so that's just another thing in operations management you'll like to learn. Lean Six Sigma on May 10. And then we have some of next year's stuff already booked. If you want to get certification, and Michelle Lawrence will be talking a little bit about certifications in a minute. But that is a great class to have, and you should definitely get your certifications. And then we have a New England Supply Chain Conference coming up on October 2. Everything is free. It's free and it's virtual. You do not have to pay. You don't have to commute. You don't have to drive. It's the way to go. So those are the classes, the programs that we have upcoming over the next year or so. We have another student night in October. Next year also, it's different, slightly different setup, but I think you'll like it. So those are the programs we have coming up. What else do we have? Let's see. I think, oh, and at the end of this, we put all our past presentations. I will give you the link at the end, but student night will be recorded. It will be here. It'll be on this page, past presentations. I'll give you the link at the end and you'll see it with recordings. It'll just be a recording for tonight. There won't be PPTs loaded up, but you'll see a recording. So that'll be great. So you can access it later and see what happened. If you need to refer to anything or you need to get a hold of any of us, all of us are on LinkedIn. So you can get a hold of us on LinkedIn. If you have any questions or any needs or any concerns or anything at all, it'll be here on this page. So there you go. That's all I had for programs. I don't know if Emily's on the line. If not, I can quickly cover
Ken,
Emily.
Emily is on the line, Ken, but before you move on, are there any other chapter presidents out there that have any programs of their own that they would like to share?
Olivia.
Yes.
And you can talk about your classes too.
Yes, I know. So we have a financial planning webinar coming up on March 15th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. to help individuals learn how to correctly place money to help them grow in the future and in now. It's just something we're offering extra to our members, especially in a time of when you might be starting to go into the workforce and you want to know how to save money or during uncertain times to make sure you're making as much money and getting it as tax-free and done correctly as possible for the long term. So that is March 15th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. We are also offering classes that will be done virtually. We can do them in person. And we have a unique style where we do one-on-one tutoring as well. And that is for all the certifications that ASCM corporate offers.
Thank you very much, Olivia.
And Paul Moriarty, are you out there? I don't know if he is, New Hampshire, Northern New England chapter. If not, we can skip past that. Larry, did you have anything from ASQ New Haven that you wanted to have different from the programs?
Nothing related to programs other than Henry Jotton's meeting that we can plan in April. Now we do have a new section chair. His name is Bill Folsom, and he's jumping on board. Last night we had a nice meeting, so things are moving along.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Well,
thank you
welcome
very
to
much.
all of our chapter presidents, as well as any participating professors. Do we have any participating professors out there? From any of the schools that are represented, all 10 schools, no professors, got the night off?
I think Luvi is dialing in right now.
Oh, wonderful.
I think he just entered.
Luvi, are you there?
Yes, I am here. How are you?
Welcome. You are our representative professor this evening.
Oh, okay.
Go UMass Lowell.
Right.
Ken, were there any other chapter presidents?
So I don't know if John Janis is here. John, are you here? Nope. So I think that's all I have that I can remember, unless somebody's
Well,
going to
I'd like to
remind me.
welcome our one and only Emily Zhang as director of our education and research in our Massachusetts Minuteman chapter to share what's going on with our classes.
Ken, just so you know, we can see your screen. If you're
Yes.
typing.
Oh, I'm sending Michelle so she knows how to dial in.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
Thank you,
dialed in.
Emily. Oh, good,
Yeah,
good, good, good. All
so,
I think you can stop sharing, Ken.
right.
Hi,
Well-
everybody.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Hi. So I just wanted to come on here and yeah, it's great that this is on right now. I'm the Director of Education and Research, and we run a number of classes throughout the year for CSCP certification as well as CPIM, which is for inventory management, planning and inventory management. There's actually a class, as you can see, starting tomorrow evening. These are all virtual classes, and you get an instructor to kind of walk you through on a weekly basis all of the material, and as well as access to an online learning portal that helps you with lots of sample questions and everything you need to take and pass the exam, which is a big certification is one of the main draws and one of the things that the APICS ASCM Association is most well known for. So I encourage you to check it out, upcoming classes. And if you need materials, we also provide a small discount if you order materials through the chapter. And student membership in our chapter is free. And we always encourage students to join and be part of the board, be involved in all of our events. So on this page, if you could scroll up a little bit, it's also on our chapter page. You can go to education or chapter events. They're both and in meetings and classes. So we regularly keep that updated. Typically, we'll have at least one CSCP class a year, sometimes two, and one CPIM classes as well. So come back to the site, ask any questions you want. I think I'll be around. I'll be on later today as well. And we look forward to having you in the classes. That's it. Thanks, Karen.
Okay. Ken, I just sent you a text. I didn't know if you got it. Is Michelle with us?
Michelle is
I'm
with
here.
us.
Wonderful.
You
Awesome.
can hear me, right?
We can
Yep.
do Michelle, and you will not get a visual with Michelle. She works for Pfizer, and so it is prohibited for her to be at work and here at the same time. And she is the site manager, MRO, supply chain person for Pfizer in Andover, Mass. And she's going to talk with us as our keynote speaker this evening about foundations of career, that the foundation of your career is certifications and the value of internships. So the floor is yours, Michelle.
Why, thank you very much, Karen. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, excellent. Well, good evening, and I'm really happy you're all here tonight. I'd like to cover three things. There are three things I would like to speak to you about. One is a 360 view. Two is the value of certification. And three is internship opportunities. As far as this 360 view goes, and this is important, and I really am always eager to share this. I want to stress how important it is to consider all of your options. Keep an open mind in terms of career paths. What we may start out pursuing may not be our destiny, may not end up to be our destiny. So let me explain. When I was 7, I wanted to enter a religious life. Everyone told me I'd be great at it. I believed them, and I believed anything that supported my goal. So my primary focus and all my decisions were predicated on following a path of a religious life. That would be a nun. I did enter a religious order. I was in a convent as an aspirant, and I was a nun in training. Well, that didn't work out, folks. In spite of how absolute my desire and commitment were, it just was not meant to be. I certainly had a calling, but it wasn't to be a nun, which is why I'm here tonight. My problem at that time when I faced that is I didn't have a plan B. I only pursued one path, which was not particularly marketable, and I found myself kind of stuck, and I really want to save you all from making that same error. I tend to advise that I have found my calling, and it's to be here speaking to you tonight. So don't develop tunnel vision and think only one path is open to you. Diversify. Be aware of what channels you can take for an expanded career, and what steps you can follow to make yourself very marketable. Our next topic is going to help you achieve the all-around professional candidate that companies are looking for. Just remember, there are a world of possibilities before you. Don't limit yourself. That's very important. I have run into this so many times in my career. I have talked to so many students, and they have a single-minded focus, and there's an advantage to a single-minded focus if that turns out to be always what you want to do, but it may not. You don't know. So the best path, I believe, and from experience, I believe that it is to be more well-rounded. And we are here to help you do that. I want to talk about the value of certification. As Karen mentioned in my introduction, the certifications have been the foundation of my career. And they have been very, very important. And it was time and money well spent. I'm going to tell you right now what my certifications are. Now, when I reel them all off, I'm going to tell you that this is a source of a lot of teasing, but as well as a lot of admiration for what I have achieved here. And all of this is available to you as well. I am Michelle Lawrence, CPM, CPIM, CSCP, CSAP, PMP, Six Sigma Black Belt, and certified in lean manufacturing. It took a while to accumulate those titles in that body of knowledge, but it has paid off exceptionally well.
7.
Okay, I'm going to share something. Pardon me?
7. 7 certifications.
I know. It's
Go,
ridiculous.
Michelle.
You see my ribbons. All right, folks. I'm going to share something with you, and this is just between us, and if it's repeated, I'll deny it. I am past 70 years old, yet I have a robust, highly compensated career. That's pretty impressive. I have traveled throughout Asia, Europe, as well as the U.S. for business, and even today, all at my most advanced age, I receive opportunities every single day. Something comes into my inbox. And what makes me so marketable? All of those certifications you just heard me reel off. They are what makes me so marketable. I am so glad to share this with you. Certifications are niches of expertise that answer the need, whatever need is out there. It's a good idea to add desirable methodologies to your resume in addition to your education. And adding letters to your name is very, very important. And it gets you noticed. On searches by companies, I come up all the time. If somebody's looking for somebody for project management, PMP, I come up. If somebody wants someone in supply chain, CSCP, I come up. Sometimes I think people offer me interviews just because they get tired of seeing me. So I am a lifelong learner, and I pursued this body of knowledge as an adult. Okay, all of you listening, are at a huge, super advantage if you start now. 1, you already know how to study. 2, you already know how to take a test. And since this is part of your daily life, the likelihood of freezing in front of a computer screen is fairly remote. You do it all the time. Trust me when I tell you, at age 50, that is not the case. I've heard, I've been an instructor, and I've had more people who know the material, and they freeze, they panic, because they haven't taken a test in, 35 years. So I am telling you, do it now while your mind is agile, while you're used to all of these methods to learn this stuff and get those certifications after your name. ASCM offers a lot of cost-effective, very cost-effective and important certifications. It would be wise to pursue the avenues available. It'll give you an advantage over most applicants. We at the Massachusetts Minuteman ASCM chapter are available to advise and guide inquiring minds. Take advantage, and I can't stress this enough, take advantage of hundreds of years of experience at your disposal right here, right now, tonight. We are all available to you if you have questions, you need a little guidance, you don't know what kind of context you're going to come into by networking with all of us here. So stay alert, keep us in mind, and let us help you form the next generation. And on that path is internships. And I will tell you, pursue these and treat them as an opportunity to really learn. And, you know, not to just add a line to your resume, like, oh, I was at Merck or I was at wherever, Pfizer. Really take an opportunity to look around and absorb as much as you can while you're there. As I mentioned, I work at Pfizer, and we have many, many student interns there. Some come in, they get comfy in their little cubicle, they put on headsets, and we never hear from them. You know, they do a minimal amount of stuff, and the opportunity is right before them, and they just don't take advantage. And that is just a shame. There are some who recognize the tremendous opportunity this is and do their best to make themselves useful, learn, and make valuable contacts. I'm going to tell you a little story. I love this story. And I've told it many times. It's about Jenny and Sophia. Jenny and Sophia were two interns at Pfizer. And one of the very high up directors in the company was giving a tour of the space that we occupy. And these two girls, Jenny and Sophia, they shared a cubicle, and they had a big banner over their cubicle, and it said, looking for work, no job too big or too small. And the first thing he said, he was relating the story to me, the first thing he said is, he said, can they do that? Is that all right, putting that up there? And nobody really knew, so they let them keep it there. Well, Jenny and Sophia got tapped to do just about everything because they were enthusiastic, they were genuine, they were hardworking, and they really appreciated the opportunity to do stuff. And they did the best they could, no matter how rotten the job was. And I will be honest, some of the jobs were pretty crummy, but they did them, and they did a good job. And after each job, they hand wrote a thank you note. Big emphasis on handwritten thank you note, not an email. A handwritten, just a little card. And they thanked whoever set them up on this, whatever project they had. And they said, this is what I learned. This is what I learned from you because of this project. And I want to thank you so much. And I will carry that forward into my career. I've learned something here. And that always makes people feel very, very good. You know, we all get very busy in our lives. And when somebody comes up and says, hey, you know what? You touched my life. You really made a difference. I now know how to do this. I now know how to approach that. And I want to thank you for that, which is great. So they got a lot of jobs. Some of the other interns thought, oh, whatever. And some of the other interns started to get a little envious when they saw the attention they were getting. And at the end of internships, there's a party. We have pizza, we have a cake or whatever. And when we were saying goodbye to the interns, Jenny and Sophia were offered jobs. They were offered jobs as soon as they graduated at the largest pharmaceutical company in the world because they were good interns. Please remember that story. And if you have the opportunity to partake in an internship, take advantage, like Jenny and Sophia, take advantage of it because you don't know where it's going to lead you. And you don't know what kind of contacts you're going to make. So always be aware, always stay on top of it, and always do your very, very best. And we are all here to help you. So thank you for giving me this chance to chat with you. I and the entire board of directors wish you all the very, very best. And let's check in again at our next student night, which I believe is in October. I want to see you all there. Take care, folks. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Okay. I hope you all enjoyed that story. That one warms my heart every time I hear it. Absolutely. The absolute truth.
It's awesome.
Michelle has been our president, vice president, and every other job on the board for many years, and we are very grateful for her to take the time off this evening. She works many, many, many hours, but she's probably still at the office. And
She-
Yep.
that she took the time to be with us this evening.
That was
Okay,
awesome. Hey, Karen,
yes,
I did want to I forgot to mention in the earlier session that at the end of this, towards the end of the event, I'm gonna plug in chat window the link to the survey to see what you guys thought of tonight's meeting, as well, and what you'd like to see in the future for these kind of meetings, and also a link to a certificate. So if you're looking for recertification or certification hours, or to prove to your professor you were here, there'll be a link to a certificate. You can print it, say I was there. Here you go. Plus, they ask us for how long you were on the call too. So there you go. All right, go ahead, Karen.
awesome. Okay, so this evening we are having a guest speaker join us, talking about internship opportunities. Speaking of internships, the name is Susan Arnold Christian. Welcome, Susan.
Hello, everybody.
She is MS Manager, Research and Innovation at SHPE, which is the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And Susan will be talking about internships that she will be filling this year. So thank you so much for being with us, Susan. We can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity. I just put in the chat a link to a document that you all can download. It's a PDF flyer kind of describing what this internship experience is all about. So I work for the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and we have partnered with Medtronic to provide some internship opportunities. What I want to say about the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers is that we're open to everyone. Yes, our focus is trying to increase representation of underrepresented students in engineering, but this particular internship, we also have opportunities for finance, accounting, and supply chain, which is why I'm here tonight. And so I asked Dr. Glasser if I could come and speak tonight, because in October, when you have your next meeting, our application process will already be closed for the summer of 2024. So I'm here to talk to you about it tonight. That flyer, again, describes the program. It has some links in the flyer that you can use and a QR code. On the QR code, if you'd like to send me your contact information, I can make sure that you're on the mailing list when the internship program opens up, or the application process opens up. But if I could share my screen for a second, and I think it will let me do it, I'd love to share a very, very short, less than 2-minute video with you all about a student who participated this past summer and his experience. He was not a member of SHIP, and he was not an engineer. So I want you to kind of hear his story. So give me a thumbs up, or somebody tell me if you guys can't hear this volume.
Born and raised in Minneapolis, grew up here my whole life, and also grew up playing a lot of sports, pretty much any sport I could kind of get my hands on. My dad's in advertising, my mom's in marketing. So both of them are kind of in the business world, but both of them are very driven. as well. So they both definitely pushed me to look for higher things. In high school, there was this investment club that was starting. So I joined, and the guy leading it was a former investment banker. And he just kind of introduced me to the world of finance, the world of stocks. And I guess it kind of piqued my interest, competitive nature of it, as well as the way it shifted along with global politics and the world around us, like kind of made it super dynamic role and something that seemed super interesting to me. I found out about SHIP when I saw the opportunity for an internship at Medtronic. I'm not Hispanic and I'm not an engineer, but I'd say SHIP is for anyone. The benefit is in the course material given to you, as well as the mentorship opportunities. In my eyes, it seems like SHIP is looking to just kind of advance young people in the STEM field and make sure that young people, especially of color, are able to advance in corporate America. My experience at Medtronic has been amazing. The team members around me have been always super helpful in just like providing me as much knowledge as possible. And that's really been the focus for the whole internship, has just been learning all of the roles within treasury and foreign exchange at Medtronic, as well as foreign exchange and treasury applied anywhere. I've learned a lot from it, and it's been a great way to kind of get my feet wet in the corporate world.
So that's just a little bit about the experience and what some of our students experienced this past summer. Medtronic is another huge corporation. And yes, you can apply to Medtronic internships through their website, but this opportunity is through SHIP. And so, like I said, if you share your contact information, I will send you the application when it opens. What this provides you is a much smaller pool of students to be considered with, rather than the thousands of students who are going to the Medtronic process. You would come through SHIP first, and we would do your first interview with you. And then if you progress on to your second interview, then you would have your kind of in-person interview with someone from Medtronic. We're looking for about 50 interns in the summer of 2024, and we definitely need supply chain students. I'm also going to post in the chat a link to an info session recording that we did this last fall that specifically talked about supply chain roles at Medtronic. And so you can watch that and see some examples of the types of work and people that are working in supply chain at Medtronic. And the last thing I'm going to do before I stop talking is put my email, just so you have it right there in the chat. If you'd like to reach out to me at any time, I'd be happy to meet with you and answer questions and speak more. But we hope to see your application.
Any questions for Susan now?
That was awesome.
Thank you so much, Susan. That is an amazing opportunity that you're offering these students, and I hope that they reach out to you. All right. Now for the main part of our program this evening, life in the operations management profession. And we're going to start with the first of our 5 speakers. Everyone will be talking for 9 minutes apiece, and there'll be 2 minutes for Q&A. So start thinking of your questions as the person is presenting, because this is when we're looking for your participation. Love that we have a screen full of students. I'm surprised that I only still have 32 of you, or fewer, because there are a lot of members here as well. But I have at least 30 of you, and out of the 30 of you, the ones that participate the most will be the ones that go in that hat for that $25 Amazon prize. There are 2 of those. So this evening, we're going to start with Ryan Hurd. She is the manager of IE and manufacturing recruitment at Michael Page International. She's going to talk with you about preparing for your first interview and potential job. Welcome, Ryan. The floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much, Karen, for the introduction. And thanks everyone for having me here tonight. As Karen mentioned, my name is Ryan Hurd. This is actually my 4th time presenting at this event. So this is just such a great opportunity for college students, young professionals to learn more about the job market, market conditions, the supply chain procurement industry, of course, and also what to expect when entering the workforce. So just as a little bit of background to give some insight into my story. So I graduated back in 2016 from Chapman University in California. And my first role was actually an executive management position with Target. So it was in retail. It was totally different than what I'm doing now, just night and day. But after a couple of years, I moved to Boston and am now a manager at Michael Page, where I manage a team of recruiting professionals, and we all focus in engineering, manufacturing, and operations recruitment all over New England. So I've been here now for 4 years. I've achieved 4 promotions in that time, and now manage a team of 5 incredible recruitment consultants here as well. And so today, what I'll be covering, as Karen mentioned, is prepping for your first interview and potential job. So to kick off, the first step that I would say is always make sure that your LinkedIn is up to date. This is a great step to start with. When looking at your LinkedIn, make sure that it is in chronological order. So if you've had different projects in your undergrad or relevant co-ops, make sure that those are on there. Maybe have a bit of a description underneath each title or project that you worked on about what you were working on. Also, adjust your settings to open to work. This will alert recruiters that you're actually actively looking for a new opportunity. And you can even adjust your settings on that to be more specific about the type of job that you're looking for and the location that you want to be in. And recruiters like myself, we have technology that we can type in these keywords and you'll pop up right away. So that just helps you get visibility to recruiters who are looking for people to fill positions with. Also, I would recommend writing a little bio at the top, just as an introduction about yourself, your career aspirations, and then any technical skills that you can put in there as well. Definitely helps. So after you've updated your LinkedIn, next comes the resume, of course, very important part in the job application process. So always remember, keep your resume clear and concise. There is no fluff needed when it comes to a resume. That's not what employers or recruiters like myself will be looking for. For format, I always recommend, especially for college students, put your education right at the top, because I mean, that's going to be the most relevant, the closest thing to a job that you recently had if you haven't had employment before. And then below that, that's where you can put your co-op experience, any, again, projects that you worked on during your undergrad. And then after that, so once you have each section for those co-ops and projects, you can add a section for your technical skills, your certification. So as Michelle mentioned, PMP, Lean, Six Sigma, any certifications that Michelle has, it's amazing. That's what employers look for. That's what we also look for. And it's really important. That will set you apart from the competition. Also, make sure that you keep your resume fairly relevant to the type of job or industry that you want to pursue. Sometimes I would say it's even worth it to take the time to tailor your resume for the job that you're applying for. Can definitely be maybe a little bit more time consuming, but it can drive the result that you want. So I think that if it's, you know, your dream job, it's definitely worth it to take the time to look at the job description and really make sure that your resume aligns with that as well. As I mentioned, again, no fluff, so keep it clear and concise. Employers can actually really pick out when you're just adding additional unnecessary kind of words to your resume, and it really just distracts from your actual skills that you have and the skills that will make you stand out, again, from the competition, because this is about setting you apart, not just adding words to make it look a little bit more bulky. Also, make sure that your resume doesn't read like a job description. Should be like a bulleted list under each title that you've had or each project you've worked on, each co-op that you've had. And these bullets can include the unique job responsibilities that you've had or accomplishments that you've had, the type of project that you were working on, just some detail about that, any technical knowledge or skills that you use during that project. Again, anything that makes you stand out. I would definitely make sure that you, again, don't make it read like a job description. So try to make things not so vague, be very specific about your experience. So these are just some suggestions that I have in mind, but put yourself in the hiring manager's shoes. Think about, if you were looking to hire someone, what are some of the things that would stand out to you? And lastly here, got a few minutes left, so I want to just move on to the interview process. So since 2020, a lot of things went virtual, which is really great for interviewers. It actually helps to expedite the process as well. It's much more flexible, more versatile for interviewing methods, and oftentimes employers use this as a first step in the process. Likely after that, there will still be an on-site interview. But what I'm finding with most of my clients, it's the first step, if not all of the steps are virtual. So just keeping that in mind. And then what I would recommend for all interviews is always do research on the company before your first round interview. I would say even before your second or your third. Make sure you are up to date on the company. The worst thing is to go into an interview and have them ask, so what do you know about us? And for you to be like, I don't know anything. You want to be prepared for that. So look at the website, read relevant articles online, check out the company on LinkedIn. Just don't go in totally blind. They'll really appreciate that. Also, this is a great tip, is research the people who you're going to be interviewing with on LinkedIn. This will give you the opportunity to maybe find some commonalities between you two, or even come up with different questions just based on their background and their career path that maybe you want to learn a bit more about. So this is a lot of great information that you can build for that interview. Always review the job description prior to the interview as well, so that you can be able to address key points from the job requirements. Again, kind of going back, but preparing questions in case there is time. Having questions prepared shows that you are interested, you're trying to find out more about the job, and that always stands out to employers as well. And then if it's on site, always ask what the dress code is. Every company is different these days, and sometimes it's business casual, sometimes it's very casual. And I mean, you don't want to go overdressed, but you definitely do not want to go underdressed. So if it's an on-site interview, everyone will expect that you would ask that. It's not a weird question. Just say, what is the attire? What do people wear at your company? Timeliness is huge. I've had candidates who have gotten stuck in traffic and they don't get a second round interview. It's just, you got to prepare. You've got to leave time to be able to arrive on site. And then also leave a generous amount of time to complete the whole interview, so you don't have to leave early. Or if you do, let them know ahead of time. Also, lastly, always get the contact info of the person or the people that you speak to during the interview and send a thank you email. It sometimes is the difference between you getting the job above the person who didn't send a thank you email. This happens all the time. So it just takes an extra second just to say thank you and reference a couple of things from the interview and then move forward from there. Lastly, just because this is important, given that there's a lot of, like I mentioned, virtual interviews happening these days. So always run the software, whether it's Teams, Zoom, Google Hangout, make sure the video software works. As Karen has talked about a bunch tonight, make sure your cameras are on. I wish I could see all of your faces tonight, but it's super, super important. There's a reason people ask you to have your cameras on, and it's so you can build a personal connection with someone, especially in an interview. I mean, there's only so much you can do through audio. I mean, seeing someone's facial expressions and having them respond to you, it just makes all the difference.
As a matter of fact, Ryan, pardon the interruption.
Please.
If all of you would check your cameras right now. Actually, check your cameras. Half of the people that I have on camera, I cannot see them. I'm looking at your ceiling. We're not looking at you. Or you're wearing a hoodie and you're in the dark. Or you're, you are not looking networking worthy at all. You want to look, you want to look, open and have, encouraging for people to talk with you. But many of you, I can't even see your faces.
And Karen and Ryan, where I work at Excelis Technologies, we do a lot of remote interviews, and they require the camera to be on to make sure it's a real person. It's not a hacker from, Ukraine or something, Russia. So
Yeah.
it's absolutely required. So you just want to make sure
Yeah.
everything works. in the
And
camera.
even after my asking for you to adjust your cameras, I still can't see most of your faces. And so, it's issues like that cause you not to get a job or cause you not to be impressive when you're trying to network. It really matters, folks.
Yeah.
That is much better. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have hit the past 11-minute mark
Cool.
for your
That's
session,
fine.
Ryan. But I want to make sure that if there are any questions for our recruiter this evening, that you have the time to raise your hand and ask a question.
Hello, I have a question.
Yeah. Hi, Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm from UMass Lowell. Thank you, Ryan, for speaking. I have a question about the format of resumes regarding like projects. Like, how do you best describe a project that would be attractive to the recruiters?
Sure. And so can you give me a little context of a project, or what's your major, I guess?
I'm international business. So like what
International business.
project am I working on? Is that what your question is?
So, I mean, that just gives me a little context to work with just in a scenario type of situation, because I'm primarily working with like manufacturing engineers or something like that. But say you're working on a business project, or I guess it could just be whatever project, but just going into detail, and it just, again, like I said, a bulleted list. So it shouldn't be in paragraph form. That just doesn't read well on a resume. So I guess the only caveat I would say to that is you can put a 1 to 2 sentence description of the project underneath, the title of the project. And then below that, bullet points of different, I guess, responsibilities that you had on the project, like what you led about it, what the outcome was, steps that were taken by people in the team to get that project done, and also include any like technical skills. I guess it would be different for international business. I'm not an expert in that, but any unique skill sets that you used to complete the project, essentially.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, thank you for the question.
We have time for one more question.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Sure, Matt, go ahead.
I am Matthew from Merrimack College, and on you spoke on obviously interviewing, and you said thank you letters. What do you think's the most important thing to put in? Because obviously you don't want to just write a super long letter with no important information. So just wondering what you think should go in those, like most importantly.
That's such a good question. I'm glad that you asked that. These thank you letters don't have to be an essay long. It just has to be, an intro, just reminding like who you are. It was great to meet you today. And then the body, just like a little short paragraph and then kind of a wrap up. But I would say the most important thing to do in that thank you email is reference something specific that you spoke about and why it interested you even more in that position. That'll make them impressed that you remembered the conversation, and also that you followed up on that, just to say that it increased your interest in the role, the company, even the person. If you're like, wow, I really admired you talking about your career path or whatever that might be, that goes a really long way.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan, would you be so kind as to put your email in the chat for us?
Yes.
And as a quick follow-up to that, is it still considered even more professional if you put that thank you in writing and mail it to the company?
I would say yes, that doesn't hurt, but the only issue with that these days is it's not fast enough. And honestly, yeah, the turnaround is so quick these days that someone's probably going to email a thank you.
Would you do both?
Personally, I would just say an email. That's really, at least for my clients, and I have right now, I mean, over like 30 clients I'm working with. And as long as there's an email, it's well thought out, it's spell checked, you're going to be fine.
Okay.
And Karen,
Thank you
just to
again
add,
so much.
Karen, just to
Of
add to
course.
that as well, many employees in today's age are working from home, so they'll never actually get that letter if you
True.
handwrite it and mail it.
That's right. Good point, Olivia. And a good segue to Olivia. She is our next speaker this evening. Thank you again, Ryan. Olivia is our financial manager at Lockheed Martin and owner of Achieving Success LLC. She's going to speak with you this evening on how to grow while continuously networking. Who you meet today may help you professionally in the future. Transition from undergrad to young working professionals who graduated recently. Olivia?
Thank you, Karen. So yes, to give a little bit background on myself, I graduated from Quinnipiac University in 2017. I ended up talking about the importance of networking. I ended up being the youngest intern to ever work at the New York Football Giants, where I worked for 6 years and ended up managing professional athletes due to the fact I networked and I kept relationships thriving for about a year, and they turned around and ended up hiring me partially because of that. I then ended up working for different teams and managing athletes, and then in 2019 went back to school. So I did experience college during COVID with many of you, and got my MBA in supply chain management, where I ended up working in Lockheed Martin. I was a master scheduler for all the helicopters we make, and now I'm a financial manager for our naval contracts that we have. I also own a company and do a podcast every week. And one of the great things about networking, and I tell all my clients and everyone this, is networking is about relationships. Your network is what is your net worth. It's not just about, hey, emailing someone, connecting on LinkedIn and saying, hey, can we connect? I saw you at this event, or you have similar interests to me, and then follow up with that a few months later with, hey, can I have a job? I see there's an opening. Can you put my name in? Or I'm looking for something. It's really building those relationships. And a lot of the relationships I have built over the years have come full circle for me and helped me grow professionally. And that's really the key to that success as well, is looking at every networking opportunity as a potential friendship that you can build. And I say that because when you foster your network as friends, it becomes more comfortable. They're more ease to actually go to bat for you if a position opens up. They're willing to tell you about a role first. And there's more conversations having on a day-to-day basis that then long-term, they want to work with you. They want to be doing things with you. The biggest turnoff I have had as someone who networks a lot and has had roles and currently has roles in many different organizations is when a student or someone emails me and says, I'm looking to go into sports management. I see you worked at the Giants. I want a job within the Giants or any team. And that just tells me they're trying to use me. And I politely follow up, and then maybe we have a discussion, but I already have put it in the back of my mind that I will not do anything for them because of the way they simply introduced themselves and was trying to get something. Now I'll reverse that psychology and say the people I've built friendships with, NFL Hall of Famers, you know, people who have come to me 2 years ago and say, hey, I want to learn about what you did in the league. Can you help me learn about how to kind of navigate it, how to work through it? And we've talked on the phone continuously. Then when something does come up, I'll text them, I'll call them and be like, hey, this role is up. Go on to the website, apply for it. And I've also ways to keep in contact with people you've met or you've gotten a role from or you've interned with is very important too, because you never know the person you met 5 years ago, where they're going to be sitting tomorrow or the next day. And I say that because one thing I do specifically is basically once a quarter, if you want to put in that terms, I reach out to my whole majority of my network that I've stayed in contact with for X amount of, years. And I'll be like, happy holidays. How's your family doing? Or, hey, I remembered you were getting a dog. How's the puppy training going? Those casual conversations make you stick out in their mind more than other people. And that human connection makes them more comfortable with you and makes them feel like you value them and their time as well. So those are a few tips that I have for you guys. Does anyone have any questions for me? Kevin?
Thank you very much, Olivia. I just had a quick question regarding reaching out and reconnecting with your own network. My question is, how do you exactly get that first? Like you mentioned earlier that you don't want to seem like you're trying to get something from that person. How would you word it in order to get your foot in the door?
So one thing, if it's a LinkedIn connection, for example, Kevin, and I'm going to use you as an example since we're talking right now. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and say to me, hey, I heard you speak yesterday. We talked for a few minutes. I really enjoyed this conversation we're having. Please connect. I'd love to continue to have conversations in the future. That's showing you're not asking for anything. You're telling them where you met them, where you had that conversation. So it's not kind of like out of nowhere. And you're saying, I do want to have further conversations. It's not a connection that's just a number or I'm trying to get something out of it. And then if you are, because let's be honest, sometimes we all are trying to get something out of it. You do a few of those conversations, you build that relationship, and then go in for the ask.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I bet some of these guys want to know how they can get an internship with the NFL team that like you did.
Ryan's got a question, Ken. I'm going to cut you off because I know I'm limited on time.
Thank you, Olivia, for joining us. I was just wondering, what was the name of your podcast and what do you talk about?
So my podcast is called Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. We have YouTube channels and then Spotify, iTunes, basically anywhere you can listen to a podcast, you can find my podcast. And we cover everything. So it's achieving personal and professional success. I've had NFL players on. We've had my episode that just dropped yesterday was with the past president of Quinnipiac University, who transitioned the university from a one building college to 600 acres. And I see Ken just put it in, but we cover everything on, I'll give you an example. One of my past NFL players talks about how he went from everyone knowing him, left the NFL, had a very successful construction company and how he managed that, but then ended up losing it all because the power went to his head. And he ended up working as a janitor for $8 an hour and lost everything. And in that brought him up to really evaluating himself, the tools he needed, how to look at different perspectives. And he talks about that and then how he's grown since then. And we've people that talk about a lot of their pitfalls, what they wish they knew, and tools that they have used to gain professional success in different business industries, in different professional settings, and then how they also use that in their personal lives.
Yeah,
Awesome.
the links in the chat window. So check them out. They're fun. They're interesting. I listen to them when I'm working on contracts. They're awesome.
Alyssa?
Hi, I also go to Quinnipiac, but I was just wondering what made you want to start your podcast?
So I was actually, like I said, I've worked in almost every business setting or different industry you could kind of think of. And I also have, like earlier was discussed, I have certifications in every business area that Quinnipiac teaches. And I actually taught there last year as an adjunct professor in career development while I wrote my career development textbook that a lot of universities now use. And then I decided this year not to go teach, but I was approached to many times by my publishing company that I should do a podcast. And I ended up trying to, I started taking it seriously. One advice I'll give you guys is sometimes your network knows things about you that you might not be realizing in the moment, and you should take every opportunity and every suggestion seriously. Like, I never thought I'd write a textbook, and then a publishing company approached me and I was like, wait, I can actually do this. So I ended up taking it seriously and then talking to some people in my network who host a podcast, like Marcus Ogden, who's a past NFL player. His brother's in the Hall of Fame. He has one of the most watched podcasts in the world. And I pitched him my idea and he was like, no, you really have to do this, blah, blah, blah. And turn around 2 months later, I created a whole company, a consulting firm, the podcast division, and we have the book, and we launched the podcast, and now it's in 15 countries in less than 30 months. So sometimes you guys just got to like listen, and I'm not saying take every opportunity, but like take opportunities and really think about them.
Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing.
Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much for all of your questions, guys. We need to move on to our next speaker. Thank you so much, Olivia. That was enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker this evening would be Emily Zhang. So back to you, Emily. She is the Director of Supply Chain Planning at Novo Nordisk. And she's going to talk about swiping right on employers and getting them to swipe right on you, developing your strategy for the marketplace. Emily? Is Emily still with us? Did we lose Emily, Ken? Hello, Emily.
I'll let you check the list. I'm gonna text her and just see if she is not here.
She's dropped off. Well,
Yeah,
while we're
maybe.
waiting for Emily to get back to us, we can go with Joe Collins, since Ken Glasser's busy searching for Emily. Joe, are you ready to chat with us this evening?
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Joe is
You
the
guys can-
Director of Supply Chain Operations, Global Operations for Dell Technologies. And he understands cross-functional responsibilities in the supply chain area. And that's going to be his topic for the evening. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Welcome all. Thank you for taking your time this evening and connecting with us. I will bring up a share here and let's see how quickly I can get this up on the screen. Sorry, Karen, you got me one second ahead of where I was.
Caught you by surprise.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Now I just gotta get the share up in one more minute. Sorry, folks, bear with me. So as Karen said, though, I am I'm with Dell Technologies. I've been with Dell for about 25 years through the acquisition of EMC. So if any of you are familiar with with EMC from Massachusetts was acquired by Dell Technologies. I came into Dell via the acquisition of EMC. I have experience in the past from doing startup work for a company out in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a alum of UMass Lowell, so good to see UMass Lowell folks on the line. And I've done a little bit of work in higher ed. I used to be assistant director of housing for a college out in Syracuse, not Syracuse University, but Lemoyne College. So a little bit of various background. So there's me. Let's see, am I sharing the screen? Can you all see it?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
And I didn't even mean to say, oh, how about that? I sound like I'm sucking right off the bat there. So yeah, so perfect. I'll take you through a couple of thoughts on functions within supply chain and a little bit about the interoperability of those functions. For folks here that are interested in a career in supply chain and or learning more about it, or in to Karen's opening comment, we all have been either impacted or played a part of supply chain somewhere, if not in our regular daily lives. Some of this is probably going to be either a little bit textbook or a little bit common knowledge, but let's see where we go. All right, so I wanted to give a little bit of a view of sorry for the movement, a little bit of a view of supply chain, the functions across the supply chain. And the point I want to make as I talk about these is understand that if you're curious or interested in working in supply chain, it is a pretty broad fabric. It's a pretty broad landscape to work in. And no one function is a standalone function. These functions are all hugely interdependent on the other functions. So quickly in my introduction, I had said I've done a little bit of startup work. I've done probably 10 or 15 years in materials, another 5 years in corporate finance. So I actually had for EMC, for a public company, I had to deal with external auditing and be in charge of account reconciliation, working with the auditors to validate and verify our financials. And the reason that I've moved around from startups to materials to finance to I did a stint in IT for 4 years in corporate IT for a large deployment of our ERP system. The reason you make these moves is because working in supply chain, you're going to see a lot of the landscape of the company and you're going to realize these interdependencies. So I'll go briefly through each function here. Again, people that are either already aware of them, it's going to be maybe common knowledge and it might sound a little bit textbook. But I think of supply chain, and many others would talk about this plan. There's a kind of 4 steps: plan, buy, make, deliver. So planning, S&OP and planning, procurement, plan, then buy. After you buy the parts, then make, you're going to do value add and make a product out of those parts. And then deliver. Deliver is a blend of order fulfillment and over on the right logistics. But so you think about a sequence here: plan, buy, make, deliver. Not everything is that clean and serial, but we'll talk about it in that order. So in the planning world, you can hear folks talk about forecasting materials or planning parts in an MRP world, but you could also hear folks talking about financial planning and the executive sales and operation planning process. And maybe it's a 3-year financial plan or a 7-year financial plan. All of those elements affect the planning part of the process, whether that's the financial plan feeding the materials plan or a go-to-market strategy feeding your profit and loss. It would say, I have some product coming out, it's going to cannibalize another product. How do I make it profitable? So in the planning world, if people like analytics, planning is a great place to leverage your analytics. And then from planning, you go into procurement. And in procurement, you're managing a fair bit of relationships with outside of your company. You're dealing with supplier management, dealing a little bit with component quality with the engineers probably in your organization, but you're ensuring that terms and conditions are supported. You're ensuring a supplier's capability isn't overstated. Suppliers may be really enthusiastic to get you business and tell you all the things they can do, but you need to make sure that they actually can deliver, because if you're going to contract with them, you need to make sure that those materials and resources can come in on time for your business. So it's a lot of relationship management and procurement and a lot of understanding of the contracts and capabilities of those folks outside of the company. And then within operations, a lot of folks will think about this as the shop floor. This is a lot of fun. I did a startup out in Louisville, Kentucky for maybe about 4 years. We built it up, and in the operations space, it was my wife would tell me that that when I walked the shop floor, I looked like I had a runner's high. You can see me on the video. I'm about a third as athletic as I look. So I'm not a runner. But in an operation sense, if you're on the shop floor and you know what's clicking, and you maybe know what's not clicking, maybe there's a part shortage or a quality concern in a function on the shop floor. Folks that work in operations know the drumbeat all day long of what's happening on the shop floor and what the weekly plan is and what the monthly plan is. And it's a lot of, it can be intense, but it's a lot of fun just being part of the actual execution of a manufacturing process. And then at the tail end, you don't do any of these other things for sport, right? You don't do these things just for fun. We don't build stuff for fun. You want to do order fulfillment. You got to make sure you can meet that that customer expectation. You got to manage your backlog. Everything hangs on finance. You got to manage backlog. If you're not getting the days of sales out the door and you're not able to support cash flow, all the things that happen about day-to-day payroll or quarter-over-quarter engineering investments, those things don't happen without product going out the door and billable activities happening. So plan, buy, make, deliver. Think of it sequentially like that. I will say I've had a lot of roles and I have a fair bit of experience in S&OP. I have a fair bit, more than a fair bit, maybe in operations. I have a fair bit in order fulfillment. When it comes to straight procurement, I did that in a startup, because in a startup you have your sleeves up to do everything. So I did some in the startup, but haven't done that for a large company. But I have pretty good experience across most of these. And then on the right-hand side, I think of these as somewhat of either supporting or operations that they enable operations. So logistics, warehousing, you're going to be building a lot of material or bringing in a lot of material. You need to warehouse it. You might need to worry about reverse logistics. Maybe you need to return something to a supplier, or a customer has to return something to you. How do you manage reverse logistics? So logistics support a lot of activities. Materials and inventory, financially, this side of the business financially has a lot of activity because you're managing a lot of things on the balance sheet. So finance and valuation of the material, what's happening with your inventory control? Are you actually showing a good chain of custody of your material? So materials and inventory are heavily involved in supporting these organizations. And then tools and analytics, this is the kind of a broad breadth of things, but from a tools and analytics standpoint, executives always want to know, how are we doing? And the shop floor or procurement or forecasting always need to know, what are my new tools? Can I get a new tool to do my job better? So whether you're trying to deploy tools for business capability internally, or leveraging the tool to display the leadership, how things are functioning and how we're attaining, the tools and analytics support is key. And then maybe just a hodgepodge of other, and I'm not downplaying these teams, but hodgepodge of other. You have process engineering and program management. These things can go truly wide. Process engineering is going to go all over we talked earlier about documenting processes. Process engineering is going to go all through, and program management can touch any one of these parts of the activity. I'm conscious of time. I wanted to at least give a little bit of an overview. Might be common knowledge, it might be textbook, but I want people to understand that there are cool functions within supply chain operations that you might be interested in. But while there's value in every one of these functions, don't ever underestimate the value of the seams. So the person in procurement is only buying something so somebody on the shop floor can build it. If somebody on the shop floor is building something, they got to make sure they're talking to the folks in order fulfillment about when it's going to come out the back end and when they can commit it to the customer. So all of these things are hugely interdependent, and there's amazing value in the seams of these organizations. And hopefully I'm not over time, because I can't get off the call without giving advice the way everybody else is giving advice, appropriately so.
You are a few minutes over time, but go for it. And
Okay, all right. So I'll make
allow
this
for
quick.
one question.
Okay, I'll make it quick. If there's some little nugget that people can remember, just remember that your career always starts with care. And if you think about it this early on in your careers as students, these things you already can do. You don't need more skills or training in these 4 things. Curiosity, want to learn something. curiosity. If you have some curiosity, I'm still usually curious about the things I do. If you have some chunk of curiosity, you will want to learn it. Accountability. Understand that if I were hiring you, I would let you learn everything you can learn, but only because I can then hold you accountable for it. So don't learn for sport. Learn because you're curious. Deliver value through what you know from an accountability standpoint, so you are then more valuable to your employer. Relevance. Work in something that's the terrible dark analogy is don't organize the chairs in the Titanic. Whatever you're doing, do something that's relevant. Make sure that you're close to the value stream of the company. Make sure you know why you're there and what the value is you're delivering. And then the last one is economics. Always remember that at the end of the day, from a finance standpoint, if you're not able to move cash at a fair rate today and tomorrow by investing in your product or your quality or your market, you've got to make money today and make money tomorrow. So be mindful of the economics. Anyway, sorry. Okay, sorry for the delay. Sorry I went long. Thank you, Karen.
Fabulous presentation. Thank you so much. Questions for Joe?
Hello, I have a question again.
Okay, yeah. Hey, how are you, Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick, and I do international business, and I was wondering, how do you find, like, if there's a supply chain shock, like for example, like a food shortage from like grains, like Ukraine war, how do you quickly find, and how fast can you find a substitution of that grain or other things?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's a great question. So most supply chains, granted, depending on the size of your company and how much you can invest in this, most supply chain management functions will always have alternate sources of supply. We'll always be able to say, hey, here's, I've been in high tech probably longer than I wanted to or something. I like high tech, but I'm still in the high tech world. You would think about somewhere in the Far East, they're doing an awful lot with componentry and assemblies for high tech products. However, the Far East can also have its own challenges in terms of political infrastructure and things happening there. So similar to your example on food or agriculture, you have to have an alternate source. You have to be able to pivot over to an alternate source. And sometimes that's a cash outlay. You're going to build the capability somewhere for insurance. So you're going to say, I know that I get my material from here. At some point, my business continuity program has to say, at some point, I may not be able to get it from there. I need to be prepared. How do I invest somewhere else, even though I may not be taking my volume from there? How do I invest somewhere else so I know I can get it from them if this one ever shuts down? You're probably not going to get 100% coverage, but you might be able to say, I have a supplier that's down, could be something regional and agricultural. I have a supplier that's down. Where else can I go for it? And you may be able to get 60, 70% coverage. You just have companies have business continuity plans that will tell them what the financial impact is going to be and what customers get the higher allocations for the supply that they can make. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, we had cut Joe a little bit short because we caught him by surprise. So I'll allow one more 30-second question.
You're too kind, Karen. You're too kind.
Anyone have a quick question for Joe? There's going to be 15 minutes at the end.
Yeah.
All of your speakers again, if you think of questions at the end.
Perfect.
So if there's no burning questions at the
I
moment.
think Kevin might have his hand up. Sorry if that's all right.
Kevin,
Kevin,
yes.
can you take it back down? Or?
Hi, yes. I just had a quick question regarding the scene that you were talking about. How would you address what typical program do you use to address the communications between all of the departments? For example, the ERP system SAP.
Yeah, good question. So many companies will invest in. I did an ERP implementation for SAP that was big bang. It was global. It was for our company around the globe. A lot of other companies will do silo ERP systems. They'll do a Microsoft version of something for contract management, and then they might do something from Ariba for customer engagement. I'm not sure, but the companies can do a homegrown or a matrix of it. Internal communications within the company. I'll tell you, I'm a pretty big fan of Microsoft Teams. we do a lot of collaboration on teams. So whenever, if folks are well-versed on things that are industry standard communications tools for internal to the company, I would highly recommend getting well-versed in those, whether it's Teams. Here we are on a Zoom meeting. Earlier, you heard somebody say, have a good presentation or on-screen presence for those things. For your internal communications, those technical tools are of immense value. The ERP system and the coordination and collaboration with scheduling and getting supplier engagement and commitments. Usually that's a corporate ERP, whether it's Oracle, SAP, those are the big houses. Microsoft will have another one of them. But a lot of companies, even Dell, as big as Dell is, we have bolt-ons that are homegrown in many places that scare the crap out of you sometimes because it's bolted on and you don't know how stable it is. But it works. It works. It's all depending on how big you are and how much investment you can make.
And just to add to that real fast, because I just want to let you know from my own experience, a system like SAP, a lot of bigger companies do use, like Joe said, and depending on what you're doing within the company, they are altered differently. However, SAP does offer free learning modules. So if you see there's a system like SAP a company uses through research or job applications, a lot of systems offer learning modules where you could go to their website, learn it, and put that on your resume as well.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Karen.
Helpful,
Thank you
everyone.
all. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Okay. I see Emily. We have Emily. We just missed her by moments the last time I introduced her. As Director of Supply Chain Planning at Novo Nordisk, she is going to talk about swiping right on employees and having them swipe right on you and developing strategies in the marketplace. So welcome, Emily. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay to get home in time for this. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So
you might want to run your slides. There you go.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. Apologies. I don't know if I know there was a recruiting presentation earlier, so hopefully it's not too repetitive, but essentially I just wanted to talk, I saw you guys a little bit earlier about the classes, but this is a talk that I've given a couple times at student nights, and it's just focused on kind of marketing yourself and preparing for the kind of internships, job opportunities, just before you kind of dive right into that, just some things to think about from someone who's been there and advice that I have just from a kind of philosophical perspective. So, all right. So just a little bit about me. I only have 3 slides and hopefully I will be done with those very quickly because it's really not about me. It's not really about supply chain specifically. It's really about kind of harnessing all of the knowledge that's just been given to you about different paths, different interests, but really kind of taking a step back to think about what you yourself want to get out of your next opportunity, et cetera, and how to kind of build out that type of profile. So, but briefly about me, I am the Director of Supply Chain at Dicerna, which was acquired by Novo Nordisk. It's a big diabetes maker. Apparently we're trending on TikTok, who knew? Anyway, but I work in supply chain for pharmaceuticals, and I've worked in healthcare related, the healthcare related industry for some time. I also got my CSCP for ASEM, a few years ago, and I went to grad school for supply chain. So I have been in supply chain and education related things for a long time. We can I just put this here if you want to talk about something like this in the future about the PMP, about CSCP, about classes or grad school, happy to talk about that. But what I wanted to focus on for this was that I was a career counselor for grad school once upon a time. And of course, I myself have gone through many job searches. And so I kind of been there. I think this is probably a season for thinking about your career. I assume maybe this is part of what you're interested in. So I just wanted to share that. I know what it's like to also kind of be like, oh my God, all of these are different paths. They all kind of sound interesting. Maybe I can do it, maybe I can't. You know, you're kind of pressed to sell yourself, and that's a kind of an awkward feeling. And then, of course, you can also panic and send lots of job applications, and they make you do the portal and set up an account and all of that stuff. And then you hear nothing. And it's very stressful. It's exhausting. It's not fun. And I guess my goal for today is to plant a few seeds about, you know, before you dive right into that, you know, taking a little bit of a step back and approaching it like, which is very weird, feels very weird, but approaching yourself as kind of this, you know, product offering out there in the marketplace, and how you want to position it, what you want to get out of it, and kind of starting from there. Because once you have that piece, you could kind of focus a little bit more, and it might be kind of more value for the time that you put into it, rather than just applying to everything that you see. To me, you know, once upon a time, I was also on the apps, and I thought that this was a very similar thing. It feels like it should be not similar, but actually there's a marketplace for everything. And it is, for me, I felt like you kind of have to kind of take yourself out of that process of it being related to a specific job description or a specific employer or specific brand, but actually to think about like what you are. Like, people don't really care about you per se. They're kind of also trying to filter a position or a role, and they have an idea. So you have to craft, first of all, your own kind of profile, just like on the apps, right? Nobody, like the person you are on Bumble is just one small part. What can you say in 6 photos and 3 lines of this? But it has to be enough to, right, open the door for the rest of it. So and also when a date or a employer is rejecting you, they're also not really rejecting you. It's just the kind of profile that you have. So putting some time and effort, just like you would on your profile, is really kind of the first step to getting the right kind of attention, because you don't want to be overwhelmed. You don't want to kind of wade through 1,000, right, people who are swiping. You just want to kind of think about what you want out of this date or job or something, and then try to get as close to, you know, getting all the right filters as possible. So, you know, number one, I think you have to kind of put yourself out there. I think I teach part-time, and lots of students want a job, just they want a job, and they think that it's just going to arrive, you know, perfectly suited for what they need on a plate, and that's not really the case. You really have to go and ask friends, ask people like Joe or Karen or me, or, you know, people who would know something about the industry, who might know people who are hiring. You know, I think you did a great thing to start just by being here. So it's not going to kind of passively come, just like people don't ask you out on the street, right? Then gathering intelligence, curating your profile. That could be your resume in a professional context. It's your LinkedIn page. It's, you know, whatever is public facing out there. It could be, you know, what happens if people search you? Is it your papers that show up? Is it the great research that you did? Or is it something dumb? You know, this is something you should be aware of, right? Okay, and then the pipeline, you know, just like when you're dating, you're not kind of putting all your eggs into one basket. You're kind of seeing what's out there, and you have dates lined up 3 days a week, or, you know, people have maybe even are on multiple platforms, and it's the same idea. You want to be in various stages, you know, maybe on a 3rd date with this person, but you're still talking to so-and-so. I think employers at least are very much expecting that. They're also seeing what's out there. So you have to really be careful to not kind of go all in and then really get discouraged, because, you know, again, you're kind of, everyone, both sides are playing this game. Set up smart filters. I think people, and this is where it goes hand in hand with the intelligence. You might spend a lot of time kind of looking at job descriptions that might be a good fit, but aren't actually a good fit. Or, in industries where it sounds really sexy, but actually doesn't really fit with what you wanted to do in the future. Again, like think a little bit about what your interests are, and also hard filters like this job requires you to travel all the time and you don't really want to do that, or move to some place where you don't want to move, or, be in front of a computer when you're more of a people person. There are some things that are not going to be a great fit. And so that you don't want to be wading through procurement positions if you aren't interested in the kinds of things people who work in procurement actually do. Again, that's kind of gathering intelligence about what does a person in procurement do? People on this call would have some ideas about that. So some other thoughts are you're being evaluated kind of on the job description, just like, in dating on your profile, but you're also really being evaluated relative to what else is out there, who else is out there, what else is out there. So just keep that in mind. It's not really, if you're a master of a specific skill, that could make or break it, or if you're interested in a specific area. How am I doing, Karen, on time? I just have one more.
About 1 minute to wrap it up.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to leave you with some questions. These are some thoughts that I had. These are some questions that you should be thinking about as you kind of start talking about what you're interested in the future, or ideally before you even apply. Think about what is your story. People are going to want to know something about you. Why are you sitting in front of them? What is your target? Do you want an associate type role? Do you want a, full-time, part-time, summer, whatever? Timing is also something that is very relevant. Some people are ready to hire right away. Some people are not. And I think people want to hear about how this role makes sense for you. And before they know that, you have to tell them that. And before you can tell them that, you have to think about it for yourself. And so, just really sit and kind of think about that strategy part before diving into applications, because I hope what you'll find is that actually there are not that many things out there, just like there aren't that many partners out there that fit all of your different criteria. And then, I think the harder part is maybe kind of taking your own self out of it and crafting the kind of profile of, this is what an inventory management analyst looks like. And this is why I, Emily, are a good fit for that kind of thing. It's not about you. Nobody knows anything about you, right? But it's really about, are you the right fit for the kind of role? And you have to kind of prove that to yourself before you prove it to others. And then, just to make the process less exhausting, setting up the filters, making sure that you have the right people looking and talking to you, just saves you a lot of time rather than you wasting your time on 1,000 things that, don't end up getting you where you want to be. So just some food for thought. Happy to talk more about it. Also, I would be interested in people who are interested in roles. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Fabulous tips. Great advice. We have time for one question, and please, I would like to remind our speakers to put your contact information in the chat for our students. Sure. I'm sure there'll be many of them that would like to network with you. Question for Emily.
Great.
Okay, great. We will hold any questions for Emily till the end. And we have one last speaker for the evening, and that would be our esteemed president, Ken Glasser, who still works for Excelis Technologies in global sourcing and contracts. He's a contract manager. Lots of opportunities for advancement and travel. Ken loves to talk about travel in supply chain. So let's hear what you have to say tonight.
Hey, well, welcome to everybody, and thanks. I'll make this quick. So, I started out. I'll give you some tips on how to move ahead in your career and different things and little tips along the way. I was 14 years at GE. I learned at the hardest level of figuring out the government rules and regulations that apply to all procurement for government, DAR and FAR, et cetera. How did I start? I started as a contractor, not even a full-time employee, expediter, chasing late parts. And somebody went out sick and they said, hey, can you cover for her as a buyer? And I'm like, sure. Be willing to take on anything. Never doubt yourself. You can do it. If a human can do it, you can do it. In any case, so I took that on and they thought I did a pretty good job, and the buyer never came back who was out sick. So the company hired me on as a full-time buyer. So I got out of junior buyer role, moved up to buyer, and then they thought I did a good job. So I moved up to senior buyer and I was dealing with more complex stuff. And it was because I kept volunteering to do more complex stuff, even though it wasn't part of the buyer role. It was really part of the senior buyer role. I kept saying, oh, I'll do that. I'll do that. They finally said, he's practically doing senior buyer, so do it. So that was another case of volunteer for something harder than your current position, and they will see you as that next position along the way. Then I moved over to Excelis Technologies, went in as a senior buyer, moved up to supervisor of MRO and contracts and types of things like that, non-production stuff. And then I got into the contracts team. And how did I get there? Well, as a senior buyer, I was just tired of buying stuff over and over again and POs and blah, blah, blah over and over again. Suppliers were tired of hearing me call. So I would group the stuff together, get some cost savings and time savings, mine and the supplier, and make a contract. And it was so much easier than buying a PO every other week or every other month for the same stuff. It was a contract. Put it together, you get a discount pricing, and it makes it easier for both sides. So that's how I moved myself up the chart. And if you always, like I said in the last slide, if you work ahead of your current position, as senior buyer, you didn't have to do contracts, but I did them anyway to save myself time in senior buyer and to get more successful as senior buyer. Work ahead of your current position. If they give you an internship or something to do and you find, hey, I could do something a little harder, volunteer for it. Say, hey, I can do this too, and probably someone in management will be like, yeah, this will save me some time. If they really want to do this, great. And it makes you look better. And I moved up eventually to manager of contracts. And one thing to remember, if you ever want to get into this side of the business, contracts, you don't need to be a lawyer to be a contracts manager in most companies. We work with a company lawyer, but you don't have to be a lawyer. Supply chain terms you should know to some extent, and the IP and the lawyer stuff that the lawyer will handle. And you just need to be good at detail and good negotiation skills. And then another huge point that I think I would like to make is, in addition to manager contracts, I keep volunteering for anything that no one else wants to do in the department, or my boss doesn't want to do. And it makes you much more valuable within the company and with your boss if you jump on it. So nobody wanted to do offshore outsourcing of business processes. So I took that on, and that's a niche thing that not everybody knows how to do. Software licensing and royalties, it's a little technical. Nobody wanted to do that. I know how to do that. Compliance side, environmental and audits and things like that, nobody wanted to do it, so I jumped on it. Working with teams on certain audits, I did that. Purchasing team, I deal with Webmaster. I load things onto the website and things like that. People didn't want to do that, so I do it for our department. And the last thing is pilot team with any new systems that come along, because I can tell you, when I was at GE and also at Excelis, there are people who have been there a long time, and some of the people stay with the current technology and some of them don't. Right now, the students, you guys are the king of technology. You are on top of the world. When you get into a career, stay on top of the world. You want to keep learning the technology, any new systems that are coming down the pike, sign up for the pilot team. Hey, I'll happily do some testing and blah, blah, blah. So that's important. And then on to travel. So I love traveling as part of my job because I think it helps the company a lot, and I get to experience different cultures and different things. And why would you want to travel? Well, you're looking for new suppliers. You can research and discover new suppliers. Existing and new suppliers, you may do audits, assessments, and things like that for quality, for capacity and MRP systems and tooling and labor, and what does the factory actually look like? Inventory, how much inventory do they have on hand? Are they holding any inventory for you? Are they really holding that inventory for you? Security, are they doing their cybersecurity training and servers protected and systems and people? Are they all aware of security and cybersecurity? Contract audit and compliance, you have an audit contract with a bunch of different terms and conditions that they're supposed to be complying with. Are they really complying? I don't know. Sometimes you do a visit to do that. Supplier development. And also, most importantly, especially with overseas cultures and suppliers, build relationships. They want to be thought of as more than just a supplier, more than just dollars to Excelis. The people relationships are critically important. And here are some of the visits that I've gone. I've been to Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, California, China. China is beautiful. India 8 times with a 9th trip scheduled in 2 weeks. Also in Singapore next week. Some of the best countries in the world. Welcome to visits. Loved going there. Learned so much about culture. Learned so much about the companies. Absolutely loved it. And then the last thing is volunteering. Be sure to volunteer and get your certifications. I'm on the board of directors for ASCM Massachusetts Minuteman. I love working with my fellow chapters. I'm the chair of the New England Supply Chain Conference, NESCON. Because I volunteered, I've gotten some awards, New England Supply Hall of Fame, Supply Chain Hall of Fame, and Harry J. Graham Award winner. And then I certifications. I got CPIM and CPM. One's from Apex, one's from ISM. One is on the production side, one is on the purchasing side. And when you turn in a resume, when I went looking for a job in the year 2000, last time I went looking for a job, I had 5 offers. And I asked some of the HR people, like, why, what had your name pulled me out of the list of a gazillion resumes. And they said, because all the letters after your name, CPIM, CPM, it's right at the top with your name. They don't even see the body. They see your name with the certifications right after there. They'll pull that off and look at it later. So get your letters, get your certifications, get them. Once you get the certifications, get your letters on your resume and right at the top next to your name, and your LinkedIn right next to your name. That's all I had.
Record time, Ken. Thanks. You just saved us those few minutes we were running over. We've got more time for questions for you, giving people a little more chance to participate. So who has any questions for Ken or any of our other speakers?
Hi, this is Sherelle. I have a question for Ken. So my question is, I know that you said you were with the company for about 25 years, you said?
Well, 14 for GE and then 23 for Excelis.
Okay, so with the certifications, did you kind of invest in that on your own, or was that certifications that were provided to you by GE or your or Excelis?
So one of the reasons I wanted to get into GE was because they have some of the best training in the world, and they paid for everything, for meetings, for certifications, for tests, for everything. Excelis Technologies, we're always looking for people. If you want to send me resumes, if we have an opening, I can certainly send it along. But that being said, they pay for the membership, they pay for training. I'm not sure if they pay for the tests, but they did pay for all of the courses. Some were 1,000, some were 2,000, 3,000. They paid for everything. They want to invest in their people, and any good company, in my opinion, should invest in their people. So, like my son, Nick, he just got his MBA, and he works at a company in New Hampshire. They want to invest in him. So they send him to conferences. They pay for his training. They pay for his travel. Find a company like that. If you get into some place that doesn't value you and just treats you like a number, get out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, yes. I've been asking a couple of questions, but this is just a general question for everyone. With all of the certifications and experience that people have been stating over their entire career, if someone were to have taken their, sorry, what that mean?
No, go ahead. I just muted the person.
All right. So if someone were to be majoring for their undergraduate year for in supply chain, would you recommend them taking a MBA for supply chain or a different field?
So I can answer first, and then I think Joe Collins would be a good person to answer secondly, but and Emily also. I will say that I wish I had done my MBA when I first graduated, because I didn't have time to do it after I got into the workforce and got married and had kids, and wasn't going to happen. Wish I had done it. That being said, with the certifications I have, didn't need it. So once I said, all right, I'll get these 2 certifications, CPIM, CPM, and let's see what happens. And it vaults your resume in most HR offices to the top. So do I wish I had done it? Yes. At the time. Did I need it? I didn't. That doesn't mean other people won't, but I didn't, at least. I don't
And
know.
I'm
What
gonna kind of, sorry, Kim, for cutting you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
But me and Ken do that a lot to each other. But I'm gonna kind of switch your thinking on this differently. If there's a business area you're thinking about going into, right? So supply chain interacts a lot with project management. Your major might be in project management. You might get a generalized MBA with a concentration in something. A certification allows you to diversify yourself and have a knowledge base area in a different area than maybe your degree. So like, for example, my undergrad degree was business management, dual minor, sports studies, law. Within a year after graduation, I had my HR certification, my project management certification, and a few others. And then when I went back, I got my general MBA with a concentration in supply chain. So you kind of have 2 different avenues. You're getting the broad overview, so you can apply it to anything. And if you switch your degree, you'll still have the ability to not be kind of in one spot. It'll apply in different areas, but then you'll also, like, I got a certification in Tableau, 3 coding platforms, Google Analytics, and I have 2 certifications in supply chain. So now when I walk in the door somewhere, I can have a seat at the table and understand what everyone's talking about and have that input. And it makes me more valuable to the company. But what it also does is it gives me more opportunities to apply that knowledge and be able to take different opportunities. But it also allows me the ability to make more money at the end of the day, because I have certifications in addition to my MBA, in addition to, just your undergrad. They have to pay you for that. That's your knowledge. You bring that to the table. So if you graduate and just get your MBA, or graduate and don't get your MBA, if you're applying and have the same exact expertise as someone who does, you automatically will get paid more and offered more money. So certifications never help. And within 2 years of getting that certification, it could pay forward like double. You could end up making more.
Investing, yeah, in yourself, and hopefully your company investing in you, which will help you too.
Is that helpful, Kevin?
Yes, really helpful. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Joe, or any of the other speakers, Emily?
I was just going to say, really, there's no wrong answer in the sense of pursuing any education or training. If you have to slow down because of other things in life, to Ken's point, I wish I had done my MBA earlier. If you have to slow down how much time you can give education or certification, slow down. But if you can continue some momentum and continue learning, it's always going to be to your benefit. The one other thing I would say is, sometimes these things are opportunity costs, right? Do I have the time and money to put into my own degree? Maybe getting your foot in the door somewhere before you go for your master's. Number one, they may help pay for the master's. Number two, you're going to start earning an income. So there's no wrong answer. It just depends on where you're at in life and what your enthusiasms are. I would just say, back to my point about curiosity and accountability, just keep learning and keep taking on more cool stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, and
you might want to stop sharing your slides, Ken, so we can all see one another's faces as we chat. And Emily, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I was gonna say what Joe said, which is that there are
Awesome.
companies
Awesome, thank
that pay you to go. Or at least they'll cover the whole thing, so it's a win-win.
I
Yes.
like win-win.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Okay, before we take any further questions for the evening, it's time for us to do our raffle. And I have your names here and they're going in a hat. And I'm going to pull them out. Because
I put
I've
my
been,
name in
as your
twice.
moderator, very busy writing everybody's names down and making a decision on what's going on here.
Karen, did you put my name in twice?
Yeah, I did, Joe. The two winners are Nick Ewing and Kevin Hugh. Awesome. So make
Right.
sure, what do you need for information in the chat from these gentlemen?
I
Or
need
they
their
just
email address.
Email you directly.
Yeah, I need their email address. I will put my email in here too, if you want to email me directly and, but otherwise you can put it in chat. Let me see. All right, I'm putting the email address now.
Awesome. And
Home one.
congratulations to the two of you for receiving the $25 gift certificate. Those of you who want to come, show your faces again for the entire evening, which we really appreciate, and participate, asking questions, etc. Again, we will let your professors know that you have been there. I recommend that you get the certificate and present it to your professor for some credit this evening. You just took 2 hours out of your study time to be with us, and we are very grateful to have an audience. But I hope that you saw the value in all of this networking and all of the people that you can connect with, that can connect you with more members, more people out in the industry to give you a leg up, provide you with internships, etc. So at this point, Ken, I think we can stop recording this evening.
Yeah.
And we're going to stay on the